And I'm good for 30.
Oh, you're good. Everybody's going to know that you're good for 30. Perfect. All right.
That's what I wanted.
Yes.
It sounds great.
It sounds great. So welcome,
for
Carrie.
joining.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. We've been having a lot of fun today, doing all kinds of games and interviews. Talked to Jason Bassler earlier today.
Nice.
So
He knows you.
I know him. We know each other.
Wow.
He's cool.
So big.
Like you.
So yes, that was a lot of fun. And then we talked to Brandon of Agris Nexus, and then we had a random actor come by, and he was talking about all his LA stuff and getting felt up by all the producers. So all about that, LA, Hollywood. There's a lot of rapists over there, right? There's all kinds of crazy people.
That all happens here.
Yeah, it's
Wow. She lives OG Liberty. Okay. I want to talk about your OG-ness in the Liberty movement.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's OG time.
So it goes all the way back to the skit you did with me. No, just kidding. There's so yeah, feel free to tell the audience when you started becoming an activist for liberty.
Sure. So it was actually a while ago. It was 2011. Well, I guess the story starts in 2008 because I was a giant Barack Obama supporter. I openly admit that. I'm not. Well, I'm a little ashamed still, but it's part of my story.
I was too.
Right? Oh, that's right. A lot of people were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2008, I voted for Obama. He's going to fix everything. And then 2011, I felt kind of dumb because I didn't know what was going on in the world. So I started paying attention and I was really mad. And the same summer, a good friend showed me Ron Paul videos. And it was a website called ronpaulflix.com. If anybody was into the Ron Paul campaign back then, they'll remember it. It doesn't exist anymore. But it was just Ron Paul interviews and speeches, everything Ron Paul was there. So we'd stay up until 3 a.m. just watching Ron Paul. And that obviously changed my life. So I started making videos for Ron Paul 2012 and 2011. And then I was very disheartened and angry. And then I became an anarchist because I saw that the political system is no way to create change or sustainable solutions. And I started making videos somewhat regularly in 2014, actually. And then I ended up at the antimedia.org, which along with Jason Bassler's The Free Thought Project was banned in 2018. And then I ended up as an editor at the Foundation for Economic Education. And I learned so much about economics. So I just recently finished my contract there. So I'm going to be making a lot more YouTube videos now.
Ooh,
wow.
awesome.
So when you say you finished up your contract, are you saying that now you're freelancing or are you just going back to doing your own thing?
Back to my own thing. I still will work with Fee a little bit, but I always go MIA all the time. It's just, people just accept that that's what I do. I'll make videos for a few months and then I disappear for a few months, but I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be more consistent. So I'm looking forward to having a lot more time to do that.
Wow, that's awesome.
That is awesome. So when it comes to your impact and the videos you made, what would you say are some of the most prominent ones that, have really gained a lot of traction and attention for those who may not know of your work?
Well, if anybody's going to recognize me, I was the girl who blue torched her Obama shirt in 2014. And that's actually the video that connected me with the anti-media. That video did everything for me. And then another one you might know me from is the self-hating Jew video, how I became a self-hating Jew. That was also 2014. I was on a roll in 2014. I was going for it. Those are my two biggest ones if you're going to recognize me, but I've made videos on all kinds of stuff. I'm always around during election seasons. I've made several videos on guns. My first one was actually kind of constitutionally based. It was just compare, because people always say the Second Amendment is outdated. So that was the first gun video I ever made, actually. And then it kind of piggybacked on the Obama video, and I got lucky and that one went viral too. So in retrospect, I would not make really a constitutionally based argument for gun rights, but nevertheless, it apparently resonated with people. And I think that's a good avenue to talk to people, even if I don't believe in the Constitution.
Right. Exactly.
And you're just being philosophical, just being no, that's just, if you're saying this is the law, you're violating your own, you don't even have to be statist to just point that out. So,
right.
So that's really cool. So yeah, OG Carrie over here. I was honored to see her acting skills, like really good.
And I yours. We had such a fun time together making that video and writing that video. I had a great time.
Yeah. I really liked our brainstorming sessions. Okay, what about this line? We're like, no, I don't think that fits. And it was just so fun.
And we were cracking each other up. It was great.
So speaking of those kinds of videos, have you done any other kinds of collab skits since that time?
Since the time that I did it with Pho, I don't think so, but I've done collaborations before, and of course they're escaping me right now, but I have. I know I've done them, and I would like to do more. I love working with other people, and that's something I love about the liberty movement and just freedom and humanity in general is we're all different. We all have different perspectives. We all can reach different people with the way we view liberty and how we articulate it, and so it's so fun to work with other people, get new ideas, new takes, and just like share the enthusiasm.
So good.
I mean, all I'm hearing is that, you know, you said that, you know, you're no longer in contract with the fee and you've done some collabs and it's been a long time.
I know where you're going.
I mean, we have this thing called Red Flag Reality, you know, there might be some collabs that could come up in terms of some videos that could be interesting.
Yeah, I'm down. I've done a red flag video before. I did one last summer.
Right.
It's an important issue, as you guys are well aware. I don't have to tell you, but yeah, it's something. It's an intersection of so many different things.
Sorry, go ahead.
Proceed.
You may proceed.
Wait.
No, anybody. But basically, yeah, like, I mean, as you've been covering a lot with, you know, all your videos, you hit those hard hitting points with what the government's really doing, basically unraveling things. So when it comes to these issues, could you just, you know, highlight some of the things that you've personally have noticed and are concerned about with red flag laws, as you are someone who has actually spoken to these issues?
Yeah, you know, I think gun rights really come down to a much broader scope of basic human rights. Obviously, I don't have to really explain the fact that like gun rights they assure other rights and they ensure other rights. But especially with red flag laws, it's not just this idea of like, oh, the government can take your guns. It's the government can decide to take your property. It's the government can decide if you're crazy. The government can suspend due process. And again, like, no, I'm not a constitutionalist, but that's like pretty important. The government can't just decide to infringe upon your rights without at least proving why they need to. So for me, of course, it's about gun rights, but it's about the bigger picture of freedom in general.
Absolutely.
That's
agree with that.
Well articulated.
Right. And that's the thing too with the red flag laws, right? As you were saying, like this idea of due process and actually having a chance to defend yourself before there's serious action taken against you. And this idea that, oh, hey, some person, a coworker or some edgy neighbor is like, oh, you know what? They have a, you know, pro-gun shirt or bumper sticker. You know, I'm just going to say that they were acting suspicious or they were maybe waving their gun or something like that.
Like
and
they
then,
just don't like you or your lifestyle and they ascribe some evil meaning to just you dressing like a girl or a tomboy or what. Or a rapper. It's just like, okay, if at the end of the day you're not like being violent towards anybody, like that's it. And like you said, I love how you said like everyone's individual and have their own interests and it's like subjective values. But if we're all just peaceful, then we can have a really beautiful, peaceful world together where we all specialize in what we're really good at. Yoga or like, you know, teaching that and making videos. Like it really is specialization and it really is valued subjectively different by different individuals. So what matters there, because there's so many different interests, just let people be free to own their bodies and their property. And it's just gonna be all right. So
Well, I think too, like, especially with red flag laws, there are already instances of what happens when you give the government that kind of broad control with such vague wording and standards. Like if you look at no-fly lists, the people who end up on them and how hard it is to get off of them, or with the indefinite detention clause of the NDAA, like, oh, if you associate with terrorists or something, like, well, journalists could be wrapped up in that, and that's already been played out. So it's just shocking to me that there are people who might otherwise see the problems with a no-fly list and see how it infringes upon individual liberty and then be so quick to support a red flag law.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think there's a lot of emotional manipulations that come with it where people are led to believe like, oh no, this is just about protecting people from those who are mentally ill
Right.
or dangerous to others because maybe they have some weird views. They post a picture of themselves, with a gun online. And I think they try to play that up as always, because, when you get people scared, then it's easier to get them to give up their liberties. And so I think the red flag laws here definitely speak to that nature of getting people to give up their liberties under some expedient end of like, oh yeah, it's about safety and security. And in your videos that you do, you talk to a lot of different issues, and you just said, the NDAA and the fly list and things like that. Is there anything else that you are especially concerned with coming up here in 2020 in terms of either laws or policies or the things, maybe things that you've seen or written about that people should be on the lookout for?
I don't think there's anything new. To me, it's just a continuation of this expansion of statism and this worship of violent authority. So, two things that I really care about are police brutality and being anti-war, opposing war. And these are two things that speak to the inherent violence of the state. Like, how do they impose authority? Through violence. You have soldiers and you have police officers. And I think especially, as a former liberal, I don't want to be mean or condescending, but when you listen to people who are saying like only police officers should have guns, at the same time, they're complaining about police brutality. And so there's a bit of an inconsistency there. And so something I really try to do is speak to those inconsistencies. And I try to be less mean and confrontational about it now. Like I'm trying to chill out and be calmer because I think that's more effective, but I still think it needs to be said.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
That's a really good point, that there's so many inconsistencies with other people's views when they complain about one thing, but then they want to empower those same people that, they ascribe these abuses to. And I think you've done a good job of helping to highlight those inconsistencies. I think that's probably one of the most powerful elements of your videos, is that when you present, besides your extreme animation, and a powerful presentation,
Awesome.
you know what I mean?
And your acting skills
and your
so
acting.
good.
Oh my God, stop. Thank you.
It's been a theme of your videos is that that's kind of like one of the things that you do best is pointing out where the hypocrisies are and getting people to realize, hey, you're saying one thing and doing another. You say you support this, but then you're doing this against that. So I think that's been a really powerful thing.
Apply your principles. You say you love freedom. You say you love nonviolence, but then why are you empowering the people you say are violent? Like,
well, and just like speaking to how these gun rights issues aren't just about guns, a video I made recently, and I kind of just like felt like I had to say it. It wasn't something I planned, but it just occurred to me during the Virginia gun rally. It was like, here are these police officers who are saying that they won't enforce unconstitutional gun laws. And cool, that's very nice, very cool. And that just reinforced a lot of Back the Blue people's worship of them. But then it occurred to me, like, wait, if they're not going to enforce unconstitutional gun laws, what are they doing enforcing all the other unconstitutional laws that aren't about guns? Hello,
Yep.
Excuse me. Like, and then obviously they're still going to be the ones who take the guns. But again, not just, I just want to make it clear that I'm not only calling out liberals, it's also really fun to call out the right too. I can't decide which is more fun and which I enjoy doing more. I go back and forth depending on who's in power, I guess, and like who's being the most statist at the time. But again, it's really not just about guns. It's about so much more.
Well, I mean, what you say there, where it's like, oh, which one do you point out? I mean, in some cases, it's really starts to make you think that there is no meaningful difference. When you actually look at the core root of the argumentation, what they're advocating for, you're like, wait a second, both you just want more war and theft and less liberty. Wait a second. Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. So in terms of some of your goals for yourself this 2020, what are some personal things that you would really like to see yourself doing in terms of your work or direction coming up this year, now that you're a bit more free?
I'm free. I was free at P2, but now I'm like free for my own content. I want to just make more videos. I'll like get into a groove where I make a video a week for like 3 months and then something happens and I don't. So I would really like to be more consistent in that sense. But also for me, and this is like way out of left field for talking about a gun conversation, but for me, like a big part of this freedom journey is like inner freedom and inner peace. I don't think that you can be really free if you're reactive and you're a slave to your emotions. And I think that's a key element of statism and why it's so rampant is people are acting completely on feeling. I don't think feelings are bad, but for me, like a big part of finding freedom is freedom from being controlled by very natural human feelings that come up. We all have them. We all have emotions. So my journey for several years now has been like going inward, and so I can have peace internally and externally, because it just became like very clear to me that it's hard to differentiate them. Like I could make a video screaming about peace, but like there's a little bit of a disconnect there. Like I want peace in the world, but I'm raging inside. It just didn't feel good to me. So I'm going to continue that journey in 2020 and like forever until I die.
I love it. Everything you said.
Oh, thanks.
Like I know. It's like, wow, that's really well said. Wow.
Well, we've talked about that. We've had conversations, and I love your perspectives on that too.
Yeah, thank you. So are you going to make more videos sharing your opinion about that? I think it will.
Yeah, I actually have one written about like the basic human emotions of fear and love, just to try to bring a little bit more humanity to the conversation. It's written, it's not filmed, but it's something I definitely want to produce this year.
I love it.
And would you say that's in line with like a concept of self-knowledge and like self-work and self-healing?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I mean, when it comes down to it, if you can't have compassion for yourself, it's going to be really hard to have it for other people. And when you look at all these people like outraging or like screaming at us in the comment sections, you know, like telling us how crazy and dangerous we are, I'm not going to like say 100% chance, but there's a very high chance that they're suffering internally. And that's, they're feeling disconnected from the world. So a big part of my work for myself and what I want to share more with everybody else is connecting with yourself in a compassionate and kind way. And I think that aligns really well with individual freedom.
Yeah, well, so I've kind of noticed that even recently. It's just like how people treat others in the world tends to be reflections of how they treat and think of themselves inside.
Exactly.
Like, oh, I hate people who do this. It's like maybe they did that once and they like hate themselves for it and have these horrible words, just like I'm stupid.
Yeah.
Like, or I'm dumb. Like, oh, and I'm like, no, you're fine. You're just like, you didn't know what you didn't know, and now you know what you didn't know, and good job.
Yeah, it's all a process. I'm still learning. Like I haven't mastered any of this. Yeah, we all are, and that's the beauty of it.
Until you die, you said. That resonates with me too. Like, it is a journey, and human mind is prone to error. There's a lot of shit going on underwear. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and a lot to process, including your own internal world and like all the things you pick up subconsciously. You have to like really think about like, okay, if I feel this way, why do I feel this way? Like, what was my, dare I say, trigger? Like really like analyze and be like, why am I triggered by that? And like, oh, that goes back to this, or
exactly,
trauma or whatever.
Completely. And you know, something I've noticed both with statists and with anarchists is like so much of the outward anger we feel toward, whether it's Donald Trump, you know, for the leftists, or whether it's Democrats for people on the right, or anybody, or anarchists at the state, and especially activists, I found like a lot of the reactivity we feel has absolutely nothing to do with the state. Like, yes, there's very good reason to be angry. And like, I'm very angry that the United States military kills pine nut farmers in Afghanistan, you know, like that's legitimate anger. However, I think a lot of the reactivity, and what I didn't realize the first, I don't know, like 5 years I was making videos, or 4 years, was that like so much of the emotion that was pouring out of me wasn't about Matt. Like it was about like my own issues, and they were triggered by the external world. And then I was lashing out. And when I started going more inward and looking at like, oh, this happened when I was 8 and that happened when I was 12. And like, okay, no wonder I want to speak out for the people who were oppressed, or I feel like I have to speak up for justice, you know? And I've talked to so many activists who had similar experiences, and it's so cool. I mean, I think it's so like, what a cool way to like make productivity out of trauma, you know? But it's also really productive to go inward and heal those parts of us, because I don't want to live in a free society where people are just like acting out like incessant patterns of like hostility and meanness, and just like, no, thank you. I want a peaceful world, all, you know, with no government, but also like spiritually and emotionally and just very consciously.
And at home, like you're saying, like ending the cycle of violence of state, which is a reflection really of the home, as we're getting to like, why are people okay with violence later in life? It comes from somewhere. They didn't have a life of peace and freedom, and they're like, all right, it's my 21st birthday. All right, we need some statism. I need to be regulated. Like, you know, I've been trading smoke bombs at school. Like I felt that freedom. Like, no, it's like these people are usually the ones who have been in the public school system. And then after school, after 8 hours with a 1 hour break and like teachers watching you and like very specific rules and like bells and raising your hand to go to the bathroom, you go home and you're still like doing their work because like, oh, you have to get this homework. And if you don't do it, you're not going to be anything in life. If you don't go to college, you need straight A's, like all these things. And no wonder these people come out after like what, 18 years, 12 years of schooling, just being so, unable to self-direct their own life or learning or own themselves. They're so used to like being in this protected environment, and socialists have really succeeded in America in terms of taking over the public school system. Like that's probably the number one thing that they control is the public school system, like, and all the propaganda for like, oh, FDR's their hero.
Oh, I know. He was my hero for sure.
Me too. I went through the public school system, and
Not I.
we went through similar compulsory schooling, but not public.
Right. Did you have a lot of pressure to perform, Carrie, when you were younger? That is a part of that. That I guess you could say that trauma and healing and things like that. Did you have like a lot of pressure, expectations for you to perform and do well and like look a certain way?
Yeah, of course. I don't think any more than anybody else growing up in America. But so I have to make a confession. So a lot of people who are anarchists often say, like, I knew from the time I was little that it was all, that it was all a lie. And I knew that the authority wasn't real. I didn't, though. Like, I went to kindergarten and like, it gave me a lot of anxiety to follow all the rules and to like have to like be called on and read or do whatever they demanded. It gave me anxiety. However, I really liked being praised for it, and I actually, my very first act of civil disobedience was Duck, Duck, Goose in kindergarten because I had such performance anxiety. I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to get up and run and not catch like the duck or the goose or whatever. So like, I would just sit it out. Like, I don't know for how long it was, but I just refused. Like the teachers would try to make me and I was like, no, I'm not doing it. But when I finally did do it, I got a certificate. Like I got like a special little award because I did what they wanted, and so that just further cemented like, oh, I should do what they want and then I'll be good. And I loved feeling good, like it's very twisted. It took a very long time for me to get out of that programming of like, oh, I need to please other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like the rare anarchist who actually was like I had like a fetish for authority. So yeah, I'm free now though.
Wow.
Dude, same. Either proud or ashamed. I'm just like, that's just how it was. Like,
yeah,
doctrine of love the police, and just without the police, they keep everything safe. And man, if I got more corrupt, I may have been a cop.
But what's funny actually is like my parents aren't anarchists, but they get it and they're cool and they support what I do. And I'm pushing up there. But in high school, I had a friend who was like, he just did not care about authority. And one day after school, we like wrote our names in wet cement. And we wrote like a lot. Like we ended up taking up a whole handicap driveway in his neighborhood. And like the cops rolled up, but we didn't really know like that it was, I don't know. We just thought people do that. And I had written like F George Bush with like a peace sign. And and they had a Bush Cheney bumper sticker on their cop car. And it was not good, but they were like playing with his dog at the same time. We had his dog with us. It was a whole thing. I ended up losing my driver's license for a year. But the point of the story is that I at least was lucky enough that when this happened, both my parents were like, who cares about the cops? Like I didn't get in trouble with my parents. They were like kind of proud of me for like writing a peace sign, So like I do, even though they didn't raise me to be an anarchist, I'm still really grateful that they gave me like enough freedom to think for myself and they encouraged that. And they still love me now, even though I scare them sometimes.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's always nice to be able to talk to your parents about, the developments you have and to have actual conversations, which a lot of people, don't get that chance. Their parents are not able to, take it in or are very, resistant toward it. So that's pretty awesome that you had that chance.
Yeah, I'm really lucky in that regard. Like it could have been way worse. My parents could have been like hardline authoritarians and that's my mom actually kind of like unschooled me as a kid because I didn't go to preschool and she stayed home with me and it was so cool. It's just like whatever I was interested in, she would buy me books and resources and like just like let me immerse myself in it. So thanks, Mom. I love you.
I hope one day you have the babies.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, you can do it for your dog. You just buy whatever toy.
Yeah, you can unschool your dog. You're like, all right, what are you gonna
Like,
do?
ooh, he's all self-regular.
Whatever you're drawn to and interested in, my dear.
Yeah.
I said he. I'm sorry, she.
That other dog,
It's okay.
you can
Ma'am.
sniff it. You can sniff that dog's butt. You go for it.
I see. A lot of fans for you in the audience here. They're just like, there's another face I like to see. That's Ryan.
Oh, hi. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And with all of this development that you have and self-knowledge journey that you have, are there any particular authors or specific books that have really helped you, or you feel or think that are really valuable to you in that journey?
Yes, most definitely. So the first one that ever got me into it was, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it, called The Power of Now. It's like really mainstream, but that honestly, it like really opened my eyes, but I still went right back into my old habits and patterns. Like I had this like enlightenment period for like a week, and then I was like right back at it. So it's a great intro, but two people I would love to recommend. Neither of them are anarchists, so like do with that what you will, but they're amazing people. And one of them is Tara Brach. She's a meditation teacher and former therapist. She has a bunch of podcasts, and she talks a lot, not just about like inner healing and awareness and consciousness, but also like the broader humanity of it, of like how we tend to dehumanize others and disconnect from them. And I know she's not coming out from an anarchist perspective, but it's really helpful and really like just brings me back to the whole point of why I do what I do. And then someone else I would love to recommend, his name is Robert Strock. He's also a therapist, and he also does meditations, and you can find him on YouTube. They're really short meditations. They're like 5 to 10 minutes. So if you're new to meditation, that's a really great thing to try. He has one just called like Presence, and it's literally just becoming present of like what you're hearing and what you're seeing. It's awesome. And he has a website called awareness.heals.org. I believe it could be .com. I just ordered his book, and I'm like checking my mailbox every day waiting for it to come. So those are my two major recommendations. They're both wonderful, and just really talking about cultivating compassion. Like those are amazing resources for that.
That's awesome. I mean, they're volunteers to me. If they're nonviolent and they are promoting empathy and healing, that's as individual as it gets. Like
Right.
understanding of like the roots of violence and trying to see a human being through their lens of whatever they grew up with,
Right.
but trying to help them like see the reality of it and hopefully help them heal and change. So that's awesome. That's really cool though.
Thank you.
Check that out.
And just to add, like something that's so beautiful about going down that road of inner healing is like, it's very much, again, like it is aligned with our values, because you have to take responsibility for yourself. Like nobody else is going to do it for you. Nobody else can give you peace or make you happy or heal your trauma. Your parents can't do it, even if they're the ones who traumatized you. Like you have to do it yourself. And it's so individualistic. Like, and it's something that the deeper I get into it, the more I feel it aligns with everything we do out in the external world.
I really think it does. I promote like Healing the Child Within by Charles L. Whitfield all the time. Just like trying to get people to, or nonviolent communication, because that also is about why do I feel the way I do, and what specifically am I reacting to and would like to change. Like it's very much philosophy plus compassion, empathy. And that's what I think voluntarism is made up of: compassion and philosophy, being consistent with ethical rules. If you say property rights and these are the ways you get property, there's no exceptions, folks. Philosophy part, and then the empathy, was seeing every individual as a fellow human being, a fellow consciousness, and like defending yourself accordingly if they're violent, but otherwise just like seeking to understand each other and not violate each other.
Yeah. I mean, really, that's a big part of this equation that a lot of people miss, of course, is they usually, there's more common that someone understands just like the basics of the non-aggression principle, or they want lower taxes or something.
Or sometimes the economics.
The economics, but not as much, or not as many people in that sphere also do the self-knowledge work and the self-healing aspect in terms of, healing their childhoods, learning how to communicate more effectively, working on why it is they do what they do and how they, respond or react to other people and things like that. So we definitely try to promote that as well, just because it's so important that, you go beyond just, oh, okay, yeah, I don't want the government messing with me, and be able to actually have a better, more rewarding life with healthier relationships, and of course being able to respect people's consent a little bit better. Communication. So if you communicate well, then it becomes easier to get your needs met and to understand what someone else's needs are.
So yeah. Oh, and I can't believe it's already been 30 minutes, but your time, and check out Carrie Wedler on YouTube. They took her off Twitter. It's crazy. And on Instagram. Oh yeah, still I couldn't find you.
Yeah, I'm not there.
But you're still on Facebook as well.
Are you on Minds?
I'm on Minds, I'm on Steam It, and I'm on Float, FLOTE. Yeah, check that out. Members of our community launched a great website.
Right.
Crypto-based. Check it out. Solutions-oriented.
Awesome. We'll definitely have you back, and would love to ask you questions about how you got on the journey of self-knowledge. That's like its own probably
That's
show.
its own show.
Yeah.
All right.
Time of shows.
Yeah. Did you want to say anything? Sorry, before we drop.
No, I just wanted to thank you guys for doing what you're doing and doing this Red Flag Reality Project. It's great. And you're so articulate, you're so intelligent, you're so passionate. So I'm very happy to have you in the movement.
What? What?
Thanks.
Well, with that,
we'll
end it. You're welcome.
Yeah. But yeah, we can't get any better than that. Well, let's close it quickly. All right.
Okay. Bye, guys. Thanks for having me.
Shortly.